Hi everyone, so today we're going to talk a little bit more about some of our body sentences, and then we're going to move on to the next stage of the paragraph, which is going to be the concluding sentences or the final sentences in our paragraphs. So, and today we're not going to start off with homework because the homework is not due yet as of the moment that I'm filming this or when it will be uploaded. So, I'm going to wait and put that off until the next video. But we're going to start today with doing the transitions and concluding sentences of a paragraph. That's where we're going to start. So when you go through the book and you start reading some of the paragraphs, you may notice that lots of the body sentences start with transitions. And these are the introductory words or phrases that we usually have at the start of a lot of sentences, and that's why so many of the sentences we see have commas because of introductory words and phrases. When we have these, this is because there is a transition between two sentences. The function of a transition is to guide a reader through the paragraph so that they know when you're introducing a new idea or you're explaining a little bit more an old idea that is in a previous sentence. And so the transition is meant to show the reader of the paragraph how the two ideas you're talking about in two different sentences are related to each other. When you have a paragraph and the body sentences don't have transitions between the different ideas, it can be a little bit difficult for the reader of your paragraph to know when you're moving on from one idea and going to a new idea. Or if you're going to explain an idea you've been talking about, this is also difficult for readers to notice if you don't include transitions. And so that's why transitions in paragraphs are important. So here I have some examples of transitions. These are some common ones, but these aren't the only transitions you can use. So some examples are first, or something like the first reason, second, or the second reason, finally, last, things like that. Those show how you can do things in order. So if you do a process paragraph where you describe how to do something or how to make something, you can use words like first, second, next, and then finally at the end to show the reader the order that the steps need to be done in. Or if you're going to say something like the first reason or the second reason or finally or the last reason, this lets the reader know that you're talking about a new reason instead of explaining more detail about a reason that you've already mentioned. Another transition that does basically the same thing is phrases like one reason or another reason, to show that you're identifying a reason in your sentence after this introductory phrase. In addition, does the same kind of thing. But it can be used for other things besides just stating reasons for something. So in the Great Tourist Destination paragraph, you might notice transitions like one reason DC is a great place to visit is this, another reason DC is a great place to visit is whatever, and then you could say, in addition, DC is great to visit because of this, and then finally, the last reason DC is a good place to visit is whatever. So the first three, first, second, and finally, these all indicate a specific order in whatever comes in the sentence that it describes. So it says, first, when you use the transition first, that has to be the first reason. And if you say second, that has to be your second one. You can, continue this with third, fourth, fifth, as many times as you want. And then finally has to be your last one. But one reason and another reason and in addition, those can all be used at any point in the paragraph. Some other transitions that shows that two ideas are different from each other. For example, if you're writing a compare and contrast paragraph where you describe how two things are similar or different from each other, like in the paragraphs about Chile and Brazil and Malaysia and Thailand, These kinds of transitions, on the other hand, in contrast, these show that two ideas, the previous idea and the next idea, are going to be different from each other. So saying, on the other hand, or in contrast, shows that the two ideas you are describing are not similar to each other. And however does the same thing as well. So you can say something like, Thailand is a very small country, however, Malaysia is a much larger country. Something like that shows that the ideas you're talking about are not similar to each other. Another example of a transition you can use is something like for example, and this indicates to the reader that you're going to explore an idea that you've mentioned before in more depth. So that shows that you're providing details or something like that, or specific examples about a statement you've made, or something to that effect, so that they know you're talking in more depth about the same idea instead of mentioning a brand new idea that hasn't been in the paragraph before. So these are some examples of the transitions you can use in your sentences. And we're going to look at one of the paragraphs in the book that uses a lot of these transition words to see what they look like and what effect they have on a paragraph. So this is example paragraph 14 from the book. Again, I don't remember what page it is. It's a little complicated because, and which is why I don't think we read it, just because it's about cars, and so that has a lot of technical words in it that I didn't think was very important to include while we were still doing classes in person. But now we can look at this for seeing all the transitions they use to guide the reader throughout the paragraph to show when they move from one idea to another. So we're just going to start reading the paragraph now. So the paragraph is called To Shift or Not to Shift. There are many benefits to driving a car with a manual transmission. First of all, a car with a manual transmission uses less gas than an automatic transmission. Here, the transition in this sentence is first of all, which is very similar to the examples that I gave you where it was just first. But we understand that, or this transition shows us that this sentence is going to talk about the first benefit of driving a car with a manual transmission. And without that transition, it may not be as clear that that is the purpose of this sentence. A typical economy car can get up to 35 miles per gallon, but an automatic car averages 28. In addition to better gas mileage, a manual transmission allows the driver to start a car that has a low battery. So when we have this sentence here, in addition to better gas mileage, that indicates to the reader that we are moving on from the first idea and continuing to a new idea, another reason that manual transmission cars are better than automatic transmission cars. With a foot on the clutch, the driver just needs to put the car in second gear and have someone push the car until it gains enough speed. The driver then releases the clutch quickly and the car should start. Unfortunately, starting a car this way is impossible with an automatic transmission. So in this sentence, I didn't include this as one of the transitions, but you can use phrases like unfortunately to also show a contrast between the two ideas right in the sentence before and then the sentence after. So when you say unfortunately starting a car this way is impossible with an automatic transmission, that tells the reader that it is different, that it contains a different idea than the sentence before does. So before the use of unfortunately, it describes how you use or how you start a car with a low battery if the car has a manual transmission. Then after unfortunately, it describes a different idea how that is not possible to do with a car that has an automatic transmission. So this is another transition you could use, but I didn't include it here. Finally, people with a manual transmission say that they have much more control over their cars. The use of the transition finally indicates to the reader that this is the last reason that manual cars are better than automatic transmission cars. And so we know now that they're not explaining in more detail the idea that you can start a manual transmission car with a low battery. For example, if the brakes suddenly stop working on this type of car, the driver can shift to a lower gear to slow the car down. But with the use of for example, they are giving more detailed information about the previous sentence, which says that manual transmission cars give the driver more control. This is providing details or an example of a way that having a manual transmission car gives the driver more control, by saying that if your brakes don't work, you can slow your car down by shifting gears, but in an automatic transmission car, this is something you cannot do. In contrast, people who drive automatic transmission cars have to depend on the automatic system. And now the use of in contrast shows that the idea in this sentence is going to be different than the idea contained in the sentence before it. So this says that if you have a car with an automatic transmission, you do not have the ability to shift gears yourself to slow your car down. So this is an example of how an automatic transmission car gives you less control over your vehicle than a manual transmission car does. So when you include transitions in a paragraph, this shows a lot more clearly to the reader how two sentences are related. And if you read the same paragraph with no transitions, identifying when you move on from one idea to another, or you're explaining an old idea in more depth, would be difficult because it's not always immediately obvious to the reader how one idea is connected to another idea. And so using the transitions in your paragraph can help make your message easier to understand for the reader. Using transitions in body sentences can also help the reader understand a little more clearly what kind of sentence you're using. If it's a supporting sentence, which shows that you can use a transition to show that the idea in that sentence is related to the topic sentence. And if it's a detail sentence, you can use a transition like for example, or something like that to show that you're giving more detail about one of the supporting sentences instead of introducing a new idea that is a supporting sentence for the topic sentence. Now, concluding sentences are going to be the last sentence of the paragraph. And part of the function of a concluding sentence is to let the reader know that you are going to end the paragraph. If you look at a paragraph that doesn't have a concluding sentence, you may not be sure if the author had finished giving you all the reasons, for example, that a manual transmission car is better than an automatic transmission car, or you may not know if they have finished giving all the explanation and all the details about a supporting sentence that they were going to provide. So when you have a concluding sentence, that makes it clear to the reader that you have finished everything you needed to say and that you are going to end the paragraph. And another function of the concluding sentence, which is pretty important as well, is to bring the paragraph to a logical ending, which can be done in a number of ways. So, one method is to restate the main idea. Some concluding sentences also offer a suggestion or give an opinion, and then some other concluding sentences make a prediction. So we're going to talk about all the different ways that you can end a paragraph with a concluding sentence and give some examples of what those look like and how you can tell what kind of concluding sentence you have in a paragraph. So one of the most popular ways to end a paragraph is by restating the main idea. So some concluding sentences will summarize the important information in a paragraph in the last sentence. And when you have a concluding sentence that restates the main idea, usually it will look very similar to the topic sentence of the paragraph because they have a similar purpose. When you write a topic sentence, the purpose of the topic sentence is to introduce the main idea of the paragraph. And in a concluding sentence where you're summarizing the main idea, the information should be very similar because you're saying the main idea at the beginning of the paragraph, and then you say the main idea again at the end of the paragraph. So this is an example of what a concluding sentence restating the main idea looks like. So in a paragraph, I have the topic sentence and the concluding sentence of the paragraph. The topic sentence: at some point, most parents have to decide whether or not to allow their children to have pets. This introduces the idea that they're going to be talking about reasons parents have for choosing to let their children have pets, and reasons they choose not to let their children have pets. The concluding sentence is: in brief, although many children want a pet, parents are divided on this issue for a number of important reasons. Now, the two sentences here look very different from each other, but their meanings are very similar. So one introduces the idea, or gets us to ask the question when we say, most parents have to decide whether or not to allow their children to have pets. You kind of expect that the paragraph will tell you why parents make the decisions they do. And then in the concluding sentence, it states parents are divided, right? They choose to let their children have pets or choose not to let their children have pets for a number of important reasons. So this all refers to reasons why parents choose to let their children have pets, and why they choose not to let their children have pets. The purpose and the message of both of the sentences is basically the same, even though they look very different. So this concluding sentence restates the main idea in this way by taking the message from the topic sentence and repeating it again at the end of the paragraph. The important thing to remember about a concluding sentence that restates the main idea of the paragraph is that you don't just copy the topic sentence exactly and put it at the end of the paragraph again. That would look very strange if you repeated the same sentence twice, even if it's at the beginning and the end of the paragraph. So, when people restate the main idea in a concluding sentence, they do something called paraphrasing the topic sentence, which is when you keep the same message and the same idea in that sentence, but you don't use the exact same words. And you can see that this was done here as well, because the topic sentence and the concluding sentence are very different from each other structurally, and they also don't use a lot of the same words, except for the important ones like parents and children and pets. The next way that people can end a paragraph is by offering a suggestion. So when you have a paragraph that's ended by offering a suggestion, what that basically means is you recommend something to the reader, either trying an activity or changing the way they do something, so that you can in some way affect their life experiences or how they do different things. And you suggest that people do something because of reasons you had before in the paragraph. One way that you can tell that that a concluding sentence is offering a suggestion is that it will usually contain words like should, recommend, or suggest. So now we're going to look at an example of a concluding sentence that offers a suggestion. The topic sentence in this paragraph is snorkeling can be one of the most amazing adventures you can ever take part in. And the concluding sentence is if you want to have one of the most beautiful experiences that anyone can ever have, you should try snorkeling for a day. So this sentence, specifically the part that says you should try snorkeling for a day, is a recommendation for the reader. What that does is suggest to whoever reads the paragraph that snorkeling is a good activity for the reasons that are provided in the paragraph, and they want to recommend or suggest to the reader that that is something they should try if they want to have a very good experience. So this is an example of a concluding sentence that offers a suggestion. Next are concluding sentences that give an opinion. So when a concluding sentence gives an opinion, the author shares what they personally believe with the reader. And so there are a lot more ways that an opinion kind of concluding sentence can appear in a paragraph. But they usually have words or phrases like I believe, or I think, or I feel, in my opinion, I argue. These kinds of things indicate to the reader what the author of the paragraph believes and what their personal thoughts or feelings about a topic are. So I'll show you an example of that now. Fortunately, my parents were very strict with me when I was a child, is our topic sentence. And then we assume that throughout the paragraph they provide a description or things like that of why the parents were very strict. Then the concluding sentence is, looking back, I'm not sorry that my parents were strict with me because I think it was the best way to bring up a child. Here you can see with the part that's underlined, I think it was the best way to bring up a child, shows that the author is giving their opinion. They're telling you what they personally think about the topic of raising children. And so in this sentence, the author is sharing their personal views on the subject of the best way to raise a child. The last way that you can end a paragraph is by making a prediction. So concluding sentences that make a prediction tell you what the author thinks will happen in a certain situation. So when a concluding paragraph makes a prediction, usually you'll see words like will and would to make references to the future, indicating future tense, and then you'll also see the phrase if X then Y a lot. So an example of that would be something like, if you go to the Grand Canyon, then you will have a good time. And that's something that the author of the paragraph can't know for sure, but they're guessing or letting you know what they think will happen if you do a certain activity. In this example, go to the Grand Canyon. I'm going to show another example now of a concluding sentence that makes a prediction. So the topic sentence of this paragraph is, the menu at Fresh Market, one of the newest restaurants in downtown Springfield, consists of only 5 main dishes that are simple but very delicious. At the end of the paragraph, they make a prediction. If you eat a meal at Fresh Market, I am sure you will enjoy it tremendously. Here, they use both of, or all. Here, they use the word will and the structure that I included in the previous example. So they use if X then Y, right? If you eat at Fresh Market, then you will enjoy it tremendously. You can also see that they use the future tense with you will enjoy, which tells you that they are guessing about the future and they're telling you what they think will happen if you go to eat at Fresh Market, the restaurant that the paragraph is about. So I just want to remind everyone again, when you are restating the main idea of a paragraph for your concluding sentence, you can't just copy the topic sentence and put it again at the end of the paragraph. So you need to take the same idea and write it using different words. And so we're going to get to practice all of this now by writing your own paragraphs. So what I want everyone to do is to read the Great Tourist Destination paragraph that I had in the last PowerPoint again, the one that says why, all the reasons why Washington, D.C. is the best place to visit in the United States. And I want everyone to do that for their a tourist destination in their own home countries. So pick the best place in El Salvador or Colombia or wherever, wherever your home country is, and write a paragraph saying what the reasons are that this is a good tourist destination in your home country. And so you should have a topic sentence that indicates that that's what your paragraph is about. You should have 3 supporting sentences for 3 reasons why the city that you chose is a good tourist destination in your home country. You should also have detail sentences to explain a little more why, what exactly those reasons you gave are like. So if you're going to mention a specific tourist attraction, you can provide some detail about what that tourist attraction is like or what there is to do in that specific place. And then you need a concluding sentence to, again, bring the paragraph to a logical ending so that you don't just end on one of your reasons or an example or details about why one of the reasons is something that people should go to visit a place in your home country is why that's a good place to visit. I should also remind you that you only pick one place for the so one place in your home country. So don't name a bunch of different places. Just pick like one city. So if you're from Spain or something, you wouldn't pick 3 different places. You would say, like something, the best place in Spain to visit is Madrid for these reasons. You don't say, if you go to Spain, you should visit Madrid, Barcelona. You only name one place. And then you provide reasons why that one place is a good place to visit. So you can use the paragraph in the book as inspiration for your own paragraph, but you need to make sure that your paragraph has a topic sentence, as every paragraph should, and then body sentences with supporting sentences and detail sentences, and then a concluding sentence, which either restates the main idea, offers a suggestion, gives an opinion, or makes a prediction. And you can find guides to do all that here in this video, and I'll also have the PowerPoint from this video on Blackboard as well for you to look at. So, we also have our quiz coming up on commas. I'm going to be posting that at some point soon. I will make an announcement when that's posted and then give everyone a couple of days to take the quiz. But other than that, I think that's all I have for today. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, obviously you can ask me, and I'll have the homework posted up on Blackboard by tomorrow. Okay? So, bye. Hope everybody's doing great. Have a good week.